What's going on, guys? This is Patrick. Today I'm going to talk to you about shame versus unhealthy shame and the role that shame has. What's the problem that a lot of people are facing? A lot of people are facing that they want to do things on their own and they want to figure things out. And some people have developed some issues with authority figures, being able to find help, and all in all, it's a lack of humility. And I think one of the problems that we have with mainstream, therapy, psychology, is their current definitions of guilt and shame. So what are the current models of guilt and shame? The current models of guilt and shame are that guilt means either you did something wrong, and shame means that you believe that you are wrong. So one of the problems that we have from this approach is that this approach goes from a philosophical position that is called relativism. And the relativism, their goal is to be understood as people and to be understood in their experience. It's your relative truth. That's what the belief is. So when we say that shame is, I believe that I'm wrong, it feels pretty liberating to a person because it's communicating understanding. But the difference is that shame is not just about understanding. Shame is actually pointing to an absolute truth. So the truth about shame is that shame is a communal emotion, which means that every single person feels it that's involved in it. And I boil this down to a little story that I tell. So we have 4 people, right? Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes exactly 4 men to kill a buffalo. We got to think old school evolutionary psychology. We got to hunt this down. We got to bring it back home. We got to bring it to children. We got to bring it to the wives because they're at home and they can't do that. So we need exactly 4 of us. Now, say one of them gets a sprained ankle, right? And they're not able to operate fully at a full capacity of 4 healthy adults. They now have this belief inside them that if I don't go, then people go starving. So there's dire needs, there's dire circumstances that are playing a role in the decision that this person is making inside their head, right? Some people could call this medical stigma, or ableism, if you want to call it with those words as well. But this man decides, I'm going to keep this quiet, I'm going to be fine, I'll walk it off, I'll be okay, right? So where shame plays a role is that the person believes that everything's fine. All 4 of them go out. Perfect's fine. Everything's fine. So they go out and they try to hunt this buffalo. And what ends up happening is one of them ends up dying because they needed all 4 of them to be very healthy in order to kill the buffalo. So you would think that it's the person that had the broken ankle that was busted, but he wasn't exerting himself because he couldn't. So somebody that was healthy, who was giving everything, who was giving it all, he ended up dying as a result. So now you picture the story, because the story is going to play all the way through. He ends up taking himself back to the tribe. So not only did they not get the buffalo, so everybody's starving anyway, but now each of the 4, there's 3 of them now, so now they're not going to be able to hunt a buffalo. And that happened because this one guy didn't say anything. So now he feels a guilt. Maybe he feels this inside of his stomach that he did something wrong, right? So being able to capture the essence of what happened is what we're looking at is shame. So a person that has shame and is not sharing that, they're keeping it in secret. That's the unhealthy shame. They kept it secret in the first place that they had a busted ankle. They're also keeping it, they have the compulsion to keep it silent when the whole community is being affected by this, right? So all 4 of them, right, 3 of them now, and the women and the children, they're all looking, what went wrong? How did he die? It's a tragedy. And then all of a sudden, the one with the broken ankle, he comes forward and he says, I feel so bad, I feel so guilty, right? This is what I tell my clients. Guilt is not a bad thing. Guilt means you're a good person because you recognize that people matter. But where it gets really bad is that your unhealthy behaviors are being exposed and they are having a life and death circumstance, a life and death consequence to all the people that are in the society and in the culture. So he feels a great shame, and people, the whole entire village is magnetically drawn. And I bring this story as an example because a lot of people have dealt with big shame as community, let's say ostracization, public shaming. When everybody's looking at you, it's magnetically charged for a reason. What it is it brings the entire society and it puts the pressure. The problem with a lot of people's understanding of shame is that they only understand it from a first-person point of view when they are receiving it. Some people feel like I'm put on the spot, I can't think straight, I'm not able to focus. And a lot of this happens because when you're in private, you get in your own thoughts. And when you get in your own thoughts, us as humans, we are the most intelligent species that is here, right? So we're able to manipulate ourselves when we're in silence, right? When we're hiding the shame. So when we expose it, then all of a sudden the lies don't seem apparent. And we feel the social pressure of people saying, this is not the truth. It even goes to this extent where we get muted in ourselves as if we already knew it wasn't the truth. So a lot of times we hate being put on the spot. We hate when people put pressure on us. And this is why, because a lot of the times we have unhealthy behaviors that are leading to pain, not only in ourselves, but greater society. So when we have help, we have accountability, we have a healthy sense of shame that things aren't actually helping. They're not helping society, and we need to address them. So some societies, some cultures, they call this a rebuke. Other cultures, they call it accountability, right? It's not about you being a worse person. It's about the behaviors that you're doing that are making other people's lives worse. And it's affecting a community. Putting up boundaries is what we're doing. We're putting a boundary. Nobody's having a depressed life when they're put under the gun. They're put under the pressure. Do you choose life or death? Right? It gets exposed, and that's called mental health stigma. When somebody, all of a sudden, they're like, I kind of believe that my life wasn't worth living. And usually that's a crisis. Some people, they call that an intervention, a family intervention. That, well, let's look at that. Did you forget for a second that you were loved, that you were cared about, that the society doesn't live and breathe and die for you and make sacrifices for you? Because please expose that so we can share that. Because what the exposure does is it looks life or death. Do you want to continue going in the way that you've been going that has been leading to death? Or do you want to go to life? Do you want to live? Do you want to be reminded in case you forgot what life really was? So this is the explanation that I have for shame. Healthy shame, unhealthy shame. Unhealthy shame says, I'm going to choose death anyway, right? Because guess what? Society's going to put a stop to that. That's what justice is. It is a healthy sense of shame. We are not going to stand for these bad behaviors. You can be a person and you can exist, but there are certain behaviors that you cannot do because you will cause death in other people. You will cause death inside yourself, right? So this is the fullness of what shame actually means. You're a good person if you feel guilty. That means it's an invitation. It's an invitation for you to drop the bad behaviors and come back to life and start winning again. When did you last win? When were you last excited about life? It means knowing what life actually is and not turning a blind eye to it. So when you get on that side of life, life opens up. Life is on the other side of shame. Once you allow it to pass through and you believe that it's meant to help you, it's meant to help you have life and to live life, you develop a good relationship with shame. And from there, what can stop you? Perfectionism, procrastination, shame, none of that can stop you because you have a healthy relationship to it. You can be held accountable and you can begin to live a life that is according to reality, not something you fabricated, manipulated yourself, or manipulated other people into believing, but living life on life's terms. From Patrick, this is High Shield. We'll see you guys in the next one.